Welcome to the introduction of 3D digital fashion. My name is Vivek. I'm the creator of learn3dfashion.com platform and have taught more than 1800 plus students from 10 different countries. Whether you are a seasoned fashion designer or just starting out in 3D fashion space, this course will help you to take your design and learning to the next level. The course will give you a workflow of a 3D fashion designer and save hundreds of hours in your 3D fashion journey. How do I know? I have wasted mine. So if I have to start learning again, I will start from here. The course is designed for fashion students, entrepreneurs, and professionals to understand 3D and digital fashion workflow. You will learn the different stages of 3D fashion like modeling, finishing, texturing, rendering, and animation, and how to combine all those stages to create stunning design and digital work. So what you're waiting for? Join now and start your journey in 3D digital fashion now. Welcome everyone. My name is Vivek. A little background about myself. I'm the creator of learn3dfashion.com platform. Last year, I started this course for 4 of my friends, and then it grew from there to 1800 plus students from 10 different countries. And I was not expecting that. 3D fashion has recently started growing at a very fast pace, and this is opening up new opportunities in the space of fashion industry, digital world, metaverse, NFTs, and this is just a starting, right? And with this, there are many fashion professionals who are adding this skill to their portfolios and who are adopting this technology. So while teaching thousands of people across the world, I have realized that when you are learning the 3D fashion, because it's such a new topic for fashion, people with fashion background, that they basically they lack the structure of learning it. So with this course, what I want to do is I want to give you a structure to your learning, so that when you think about 3D, you think in the right terms, you understand what you are doing, and then you plan well, and then you can combine things together that you're learning in bits and pieces so that the output is amazing. So as the old saying goes, if you sharpen the saw, you're going to cut the tree faster. So this course is for everyone who want to learn 3D fashion or who is learning 3D fashion, to give a complete structure to your learning. And whatever you are learning from different platforms, you can combine all these things together and you can do it in a very holistic way. And finally, I really want to say that this course is dedicated to my friends and all the amazing people in fashion industry out there. So guys, what you're waiting for, let's get learning. So let me repeat myself. The overall idea behind doing this course is to make you understand that how the workflow of a 3D fashion designer looks like. And also, before you even start learning 3D, right, you need to go through this course to understand how this structure is really important for you, just to understand so that you can be more efficient in the learning process. Now, let's look into the different stages of 3D fashion, and I'll give you all the open source softwares list also that you can use to achieve all these stages. So let's look into the stages. Okay, so there are 5 stages of 3D fashion. So the 5 stages are modeling, finishing, texturing, rendering, and animation. So these are the 5 different stages. Now, modeling is about taking your basic shape and converting that basic shape into a desired shape. So for example, when I'm saying modeling, right? So modeling looks very different in terms of general sense. For example, suppose you're a 3D artist, you are trying to model a bottle. Like maybe it's not important for you to exactly match the size, right? But as a fashion designer, we are looking into the more producibility side of it. So when I say modeling, we are also understanding that, okay, whatever we are designing, we can also produce it, right? So we are also looking into the producibility side. So now, and when I say producibility side of it, now pattern making becomes important. If we have a basic torso, now we can take that basic torso and we can edit the darts, we can give fullness to the darts, right? We can edit our patterns, right, to get our desired shape, get our desired dress. So that stage is called modeling, and it's a very important stage. And one of the important part of this stage is called pattern making. So whatever you are doing, you need to make it precise, right? So for example, if you're changing the measurements, you are doing anything, just make it precise. So that's, for us, that's is modeling. And now let's look into the second stage. So the second stage is called finishing. So suppose let's take a shirt, right? So once we have created the patterns, we also stitch those patterns. And when we stitch those patterns, we have seams, right? So for example, this is a seam, right? This front seams, right? All these buttons, right? All these things are part of finishing. So what I mean by finishing, once your patterns are ready, now you need to give seams on the edges. You need to provide zippers, you need to provide buttons, you need to provide all the different kinds of trims. All these things comes under finishing. Now, finishing is a very important part, but it's a visual part, right? So you can't, so there is no matrix, like there is no exact measurement, but you have to see the sample. You have to, like, it's a very visual thing that you do. So you have to do that visually, and then you have to, like, that's how you create a design. So as I said, right, this is a basic shirt. Let's see, like, in the upcoming videos, we have a separate video on finishing. So I'll show you how the finishing process works. So no worries. Just right now, for the time being, just understand finishing is a really important process, because if your finishing is not right, your garment is not going to look realistic, right? Perfect. Now the next stage is texturing. So in the texturing stage is all about giving fabrics, giving the feel how your fabric looks, right? So for example, a cotton is going to behave separately versus a silk, both in visual terms also, but also in terms of weave and all these things, right? So how much it's going to shine, how much it's not going to shine. So all this part comes under texturing. So now texturing is all about the look and feel of the fabric. Now the next stage is called rendering. The fourth stage is called rendering. So rendering is all about creating stories. You create stories through camera, you create stories through lights, you create stories through different pieces, like creating environments and all these things. So this is about story creating part, right? So you can render in any software. We'll go in more depth in upcoming videos. But it's more about, you have an object, you set up the light, you set up the camera, you create an environment, right? And you create a really nice image out of it, or animation out of it. So that's all rendering. It takes time in rendering. Look, because it's a very visual thing, everybody has their own taste in designing, right? So it's a little, like, it's about you, like how you feel about things, right? So it's more about communicating who you are, right? And like, what do you even want to communicate with those designs? So rendering is very personal, right? Some people like it that, some people like it this, but like, you have to discover your own style, and you have to learn it, right? By watching other people's work and all these things. Perfect. Now, the final stage is called animation. So now basically in animation, so for example, if you have an avatar, you need to make that avatar move. It's called rigging, right? We'll go through like what animation is, what rigging is, all these things. But it's like, you have an avatar, it's moving, right? And you have a garment, or you are going to simulate that garment on top of it. It's very easy and it's very fun. So it's not really that complicated. But animation mostly takes two components to picture. One is the avatar, the second is the garment. And once those two things get combined together, it looks really fun. So these are the 5 different stages of the structure of 3D fashion, right? Modeling, second is finishing, third is texturing, fourth is rendering, and fifth is animation. So you need to take care of each of this segment. And now in the next now the next videos, we are going to individually go to these individual parts: modeling, finishing, texturing, rendering, and animation. And we are going to discuss more in detail. Also, I'll show you the softwares. Also, I'll tell you different kinds of software that you can use, what are the alternatives, everything. But when you are learning, right, you need to keep this thing in your mind, that which stage you are in. Very important. So if you're in the stage of modeling, you are not thinking about texturing. So don't think about texturing at that particular time. When you are in finishing, don't think about modeling or don't think about rendering, right? So all the stages are different. You have to think about it also, but not like exactly. You're not worrying about all those things. So you have to be in individual stage, and every individual stage has different softwares to achieve the best quality that you can. I'll show you that. So guys, let's meet in the next tutorial, right? Till then, these are the structure. Keep this in your mind. I have also, I'll also put this whole thing in the format in the article below, so you can read that also. And keep the structure in mind. Let's get go. All right, so this is the first part of the 5 different sections that we have of learning 3D fashion. So first is modeling, second is finishing, third is texturing, fourth is rendering, and fifth is animation, right? So in the first part, we are going to understand that how to do modeling, what are different softwares that you need, what are the different topics that you need to understand within the modeling segment. Okay, so let's start. Modeling is about converting your basic shape into your desired shape. So that's what this modeling is all about, right? Uh, and every 3D artist does a modeling. For example, if you want to convert a cylinder into a bottle, right? So that's process called modeling. But for us, as a fashion designers, so our process is to take a basic shape that can be a torso, right? And convert that basic shape into a dress, right? So that's a desired shape, right? And we do that by understanding the pattern making concept, right? So how do you convert the shape into a desired shape? By understanding like pattern making, right? So these two things are linked together. Now, before understanding how this works, what we are going to do is we are going to see that what are the softwares that are required for achieving the modeling. So there are 4 basic software that is available in the market and everybody can try. So the first is Clue and Marvelous. Clue and Marvelous are same. They are from the same company. It's just that a usability they have made it separate. So the interface, everything is same. So if you use Clue, you can use Marvelous. If you use Marvelous, you can use Clue. It's vice versa. Second is Browseware. Third is Optitex, Tukatek 3D. Tukatek and Optitex have been providing industry with other softwares, other 2D softwares, 2D CAD software. So now they have also started giving 3D because 3D is becoming so important, right? Uh, so now look, I have used all the 4 softwares, but I will recommend that if you had using it, like if you haven't used any other software and you want to try the first software, that you should go with Clue. It's a very intuitive software and you are going to understand things in a way much more smoother way, right? And and one more thing, guys, look, software are just the tools of achieving what we want to do, right? So please don't be too much be focused on learning software. I think you should learn the concept, and once you have learned the concept, you can always change the software. So software learning is not a big deal. Understanding the concept is a big deal. That's it. So our purpose is modeling, and we have different tools like Glow Browser Operator. Choose any tool and understand the concept of modeling. We are not learning software, we are learning modeling, right? We are learning the concept with a software, right? So perfect. So go with Glow if you haven't used anything else. But if you have already used Browser, you can go with Browser. The concept are going to be the same. Perfect. Now, what are the topics that you need to understand to do modeling? So there are major topics is the garment construction and pattern making. Uh, like why garment construction is important? Because look, in fashion, if you have athleisure wear, if you have lingerie wear, if you have knitwear, if you have woven fabric, all these fabrics, all the construction of these types of fashion, right? It's different, right? So we need to understand the construction process of the different kinds of garment, because once we understand the construction process, we also understand the pattern making side of it and different processes that are involved, right? So how the seams are finished and all these things. So this is going to help you in all the different parts. So now the second is pattern making. Pattern making is really important. So you need to understand how to manipulate a basic torso, how to manipulate a pattern, how to manipulate a dart, how to do gatherings, style lines, fullness, yokes, pin tucks, all these things. And believe me, okay, so this is a small story. When I was learning fashion, pattern making was the most boring thing in my life. And because I was not able to visualize, because when you make patterns, in the physical space, like by cutting papers, I don't see, I was not able to visualize it, that how it's going to look, what are the changes I'm doing. But it's very intuitive in 3D, and I'll show you just in a bit. I'll show you how intuitive it is. So pattern making becomes so much fun, learning in 3D. It's amazingly fun, and you understand the concept. So when you're manipulating a dart, you're understanding, oh wow, this is happening. So it's really cool. So if you hate pattern making, you're going to love pattern making in 3D. Believe me, I used to hate it. Okay. So let me now quickly show you like the basic interface of Clo 3D software, and how this how you can use it, right? And also, look, the idea behind the series is not that I'm going to teach you how to use Clo. The idea is that I'm going to give you a glimpse of what it does it what what it feels like to work in 3D, and what are the different components that you need to get right, right? That's all. So whenever we learn any new 3D software, so there are three things that you have to consider, okay? The first thing is understanding the interface. Okay, so that's a very important part. So first, whenever you open any 3D software, and this is going to be stay same with multiple softwares, okay? So understand the interface of it. Great. Once you have got the interface, once you know where are things, right? Maybe you don't know which tool this is, but you know, okay, this tool is used somewhere like this, right? So understanding the interface becomes really important, because that helps you segment your things. And second is how to navigate in the environment. Because look, navigation become important because in 3D software you have 3D navigation, right? Like you can yeah, mostly Clo has two pieces, like they have a 2D window and they have a 3D window, so it's become important to navigate. And the third thing is how to bring objects and how to edit those objects. These three things remain common for all this new software that you start learning. So let's go through these three things in Clo. So first, the interface. So the interface you see here is like, this is a 2D pattern window, this is a 3D window, okay? And all the tools listed here will be used in the 3D, all the tools listed here will be used in the 2D, and all these internal, like all the tools that you see inside the window will be used for different visual purposes, okay? So all the visual things will be controlled by this inside, whatever happening inside the so suppose like we have this mesh here in the bottom, right? If you want to hide this, you can hide this. So all the visual things are controlled by these tools. All the visual things controlled in this is with these tools. So very simple. Let me minimize these things. So let me finally show you. Okay. So you have these two windows. You have all these tools used for this, all these tools used for this, visual. Now, library history, we have 5 tabs: library, history, modular configurator, object browser, and property editor. All these things are linked with each other. So in library, you have all the assets files listed. Okay. So like, for example, if you want to bring an avatar, you click to library, go to avatar, click on female V2, just bring an avatar. And go to garments, and you can bring a garment also, like we'll bring a basic torso. And okay. So now you have a garment, you have a basic torso. Perfect. Minimize. Whenever you bring any assets to the window, like to the software, right? All the objects related to that assets, right? So what are objects? So for example, the fabric is one of the object, right? If you drag a button, like the button, like all these listed in the top, these are all the like objects that you get with assets, right? And whenever you click anything, its property will be reflected in the property editor. So if you click on the pattern, its property will be in the pattern, the property editor. If you click on the face, its property in this property editor. So you have clicked on the face. Now you can just see what are the different properties, and there will be some property called color, right? You can change this color to something like this. So you see, like you can change the color, right? Done, right? So you can see you have changed the color. So in this way, you can apply, right? You can so this is how these 3 tabs are listed. In the modular configurator, Clo has given you some modular garments, right? Jacket, t-shirt, shirt that you can use. Perfect. Now let's quickly do modeling, okay? So when I say modeling, what you need to take care about, as I said, right? We have to be technically a little bit correct, right? So I'm not going to go in kind of like in the tutorial mode, right? I'm just quickly doing it, but what I'm saying is whenever you are editing anything, you have to be precise, right? So maybe we want to move this, how much? We want to move this, this value right now is in centimeter. So maybe let's do it, 20 centimeters, right? Okay. And in the same way, we are going to move this also, right, in 20 centimeter. Perfect. So let's play the simulation, and you can see, right? Perfect. So now we have given length to our dress, right? Now let's change the neckline also. So neckline, we are going to select this point, drag it, right click, and we are going to move this line by 6 or 9 inches, right? So this is what we want. Also, we want to do, like, this is going to happen, same thing, because these two patterns are linked together. So whatever you change, make the change in this, it's going to automatically happen here. Then second, we are going to drop it, and we are going to make it 4, right? Perfect. Look, if you have made changes, and this is why it's important, right? You can't just drag and drop things. So if you have made changes on this side, you also have to make changes on this side, right? So in the same way, you have to make changes here also, right? And you can just type 4, right? Let me just control Z this. Let's just move this point a little bit closer, right? Let's drag it and let's make it 4. Perfect. So just a very simple example, and then you can just quickly change the curved lines, right? And you can just work around with this, like whichever works best for you, right? So, and one more thing, for example, you can now select this line. You can cut your patterns, right? Uh, Again, guys, look, you can't cut patterns from anywhere, because at the end of the day, these patterns have to go, and they like right, how like once you have made a pattern, it will go and you will cut that pattern, right, either with scissors or anything. In the mass production, there's some limitations that how you can cut the pattern, so you just need to take care of that also. But that's fine. Initially, just have fun. That's the idea. Don't just make things too complicated. But definitely you have to take care. So normally, like, what I should have done is I should have converted these two darts into a single dart, right? Then I could have moved forward. It would have been a way much more better way. Okay. So now we can add some fullness to our dress. So you can click on this, you can click on this. And by the way, you can exactly make a point here, right? So maybe you want the fullness after like 2 inches, right? So you can add a point and you can do that, right? So, but for the time being, I'm just going to do this. Okay, select this, right click, and you can make it 12 inches, right? Fullness. From here, I'm going to just do 12 inches. From here, I'm going to do 12 inches. Perfect. So if you play this now, you can see you have fullness to your dress, right? I'm not going to do in the back. Okay, so this is how you have to edit your patterns. And while editing your patterns, you have to understand this concept of, for example, of pattern making, right? So let me show you a very simple example of dart manipulation, right? So you can right click on this and you can do rotate dart. So you can pick this point, select this, move this up, move it down. And now you see that you have completely converted a dart into the armhole, right? And this is so easy, and this is so intuitive also. And now, like, and you can shift your dart. So for example, now what you can do, you can either shift your dart, or you can make the dart, convert that dart into the fullness, right? So you can move that dart in a very smooth way. And while doing it in the physical form, it becomes really difficult to understand, okay, if I'm doing this, what's going to happen? But now you see all the changes happening here. Like whatever you make the changes in the patterns, it automatically happens here. So the pattern making learning is really fast. Okay, so that's it. Guys, look, this is not a tutorial video, so I'm not going to go further. But what I'm trying to say to you is this, that we have to consider the two aspect, right? We have to consider the pattern making aspect. We have to understand the garment construction aspect, because athleisure wear are going to construct it in a little different way than knitwear, than a woven fabric, and all these things. So that's it. That's all in the modeling segment. And this is what you need to take care about modeling. And the idea is that you take a dress, simple torso, basic torso, and that convert that into a beautiful dress. That's the idea. Okay, so guys, in the next assignment, sorry, I always say assignment because I always give assignments to people. So in the next video, we are going to talk about how to do finishing, and finishing, why finishing is such an important topic. Great. So let's catch up on the in the next assignment. And yeah, I think we're good to go. Bye bye. Okay, so after modeling, the second step in the 3D designing process is called finishing. Finishing is a very important aspect of 3D designing because it brings realism to your garments. Okay, so we'll try to see that how we can bring that realism to a simple handbag. Okay, so the first image that you see here is clearly like the handbag is designed like the we have modeled our handbag. Now it's missing some things, right? It's missing the loops, it's missing those zippers and top stitches and everything. So uh, the first image compared to the second image will give you an idea that what finishing process is. Okay, so taking a dress and then finishing that dress is by adding trims, by adding seams and all those finishing processes. So now let's understand what are the very important topics for for the finishing process, right? So the first important topic is garment seams and construction. Look, Uh, so, for example, athleisure wear garments are designed differently. Their seams are finished differently. Different kinds of machines are used, right? Versus a knitwear garment versus a woven garment, right? So, different garments have different seams. Those seams are finished by different machines and the output is different. So, you need to understand the construction process of a garment and different kinds of garments. So, that's the first very important topic. Second is understanding trims and accessories. So what are different kinds of trims? What are different kinds of zippers? What are the different parts of zippers? How to change all these? So these are understanding buttons, zippers, right? Or top stitches, different kinds of top stitches, all these things, right? So lining, interlining, sliders, beads, drawstrings, labels, patches, all these things comes under trims and accessories. So second topic that you need to understand is trims and accessories. So once you combine these two topics together, now you have a fairly good understanding of how to finish a garment, right? So these are the two important topics. So uh, what we will do here is we'll try to understand that, okay, how a shirt is finished, okay, specifically that how the shirt collar is finished, so that you get an idea that, okay, how it is done. So I'm going to quickly open Clo and I'll try to finish this shirt collar. Okay, so let's jump into Clo. Let's go to modular configurator. Let's try to bring a simple shirt, right? Shirt, let's do it. Single click, single click, single click, single click, and single click. I am not teaching here. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm showing you how to finish a simple collar of a shirt. Let's quickly go to avatars. Let's bring a male avatar also. Now I'm going to quickly hide this avatar so that if I play the simulation, the garment won't fall. Okay, so let's zoom. The first thing is this, that the thickness is not turned on. So I'm going to just quickly turn on the thickness of the fabric. Okay. Now the second thing, as you can see, right, this collar is not looking that great. You can see there's a top stitch in this collar. When you finish a collar, right, so you stitch in the opposite direction, then you turn it inside out, right? So that's what you do. So all these things are missing from here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly open up the collar, right? I'm just quickly going to delete this. I'm going to open this up, right? At the same time, I'm also going to open, let's delete the seams also. Right, so now you can see, right, the first, let me open the first pattern also. Perfect. So this is what I like kind of wanted, right? Just the collar is a little open, right? Now, the first thing is that we can see is that our collar is having no thickness. So let's add thickness first. So you can select a pattern, you can go to the property editor. Okay. How does this everything works is like anything that you select, all the properties of that particular object will be listed in the property editor. I'm going to quickly hide this and just the property item will open. So now you see here, add on thickness, right? So I can just do it 2.5. So now you see, right, you have a thickness, right? This thickness is different. And you can see, right, it has a thickness. Just try to reduce it a little bit more, 1.5. Yeah, works. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is, now you see the problem here is that the thickness edges are really sharp, right? So we want to just smooth those edges, right? So the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to quickly go to the top section and we are going to turn on the curved side geometry. So as soon as we do curved side geometry, this will be curved, right? The edges will be curved. And because the collar is kind of, it's turned inside out, right? So there is a line in the thickness, as you can see here, right? So we are just going to quickly replicate that. So to replicate that, you can do double-sided. So once you turn this on, now you see here, right, that it looks like it's folded from inside. So nice. So this is a simple folding. Now the next thing, as you can see here, is you can see a top stitch that is going here, right? So we want to add a top stitch also. So how to add a top stitch? Adding top stitch is quite simple. We can go to the top stitch section here, free top stitch, and we can do a top stitch. Now look, one more thing, okay? If you see the collar, the stitch the stitch is not broken in the edge, right? So it's a complete stitch. It's coming from here, it's going up. Okay, so the stitch is not it will not break, right, in the edges. So that's why we are selecting a free stitching. So now, free top stitch. Now we'll go like this, and you can see, you can't see any top stitch, but you can see it in the bottom, right? The reason is because this is the opposite, right? This is the back side of the fabric. So you have to tell explicitly to glue that I want to see the top stitch in the back side also. So for that, what you can do, you can select the default top stitch and you can come down and you can see configuration face. You can do both. So now you will see in both the faces, right? And one last thing that we are going to do, because whenever the stitch happens, right, so there is some kind of a pressure that threads apply, right? So there's a depth that goes. So what we are going to do, we are going to quickly turn on the 3D also. So now you see, right, there's a depth here that is going, and you can control the intensity and thickness by here. So you can do 0.10, right? So this will be smaller, right? You can also change the intensity. Minus means it's going to come out. Positive means it's going to go down, right? Okay, perfect. Now the last thing is, because a collar need more particles, right? So we are going to just select this and we are going to quickly we are just going to add some more particles, right? So we are just going to make it 5. And if we play this now, you see, this is a little bit more better. And this is how you finish your collar. Okay, so a very simple process, okay, nothing really complicated here. But even if you don't know this, just watch it, okay? So what I mean by saying that is that every step, so once you model your design or a garment, you need to finish that garment, right? And that finishing process requires some kind of an understanding of how the garment is constructed, what kind of different trims and buttons. So for example, it's simple, right? The button cannot be here, right? The button has to be here, right? This is wrong actually, right? So just to understand the different technicalities of things, that's all the finishing process is about. And then to replicate that, as I said, finishing process is a very visual process. So sometimes you need to have some reference images. Like for example, I was having the reference image of a shirt. So you also need to have a reference image of a shirt or something, that the garment that you're trying to make. It will give you a very good understanding of how things are working out, okay? So this is how you finish a collar of a shirt. And in the same way, you're going to finish the plackets, you're going to finish the cuff, you're going to finish the shoulders and everything. And that's it. So this process is called finishing, and it's a very important process. In the next process, we will see how to apply textures and what's the importance of textures in the 3D process. And I'll revise it again, okay? So there are 5 different steps of 3D designing. So first is modeling. Modeling is like you have taken a basic design, you have converted that basic design into your desired shape, right? That's modeling. Second process is finishing. Now you're adding trims, you're adding seams, all those things. Now after that you will be doing texturing. After that you will be doing rendering, and then animation. All the steps. Okay, great. We'll catch up on the next assignment tutorial. There it is. So now in the third part, we are going to understand that how textures are created in for your garment, and what are the different components that are involved in texture creations. There are a lot of open source softwares that are available from GitHub, from different resources that you can use to create all these textures. Okay, uh, so don't worry about a specific software in this, but understand the concept so that you can use different open source softwares to go forward. So now let's quickly understand that what are the different topics that you need to understand before learning like how to create those things. So first thing is the fabric construction. So look, the way cottons are created, different kinds of weave, the polyester fabric. So understanding different kinds of fabric, understanding different structures, weave structures. Okay, those are the really important things that you need to understand. So for example, just let's understand by one example. Okay, so suppose if we are talking about the screen printing process. So suppose you have a fabric, on top of that fabric you apply screen printing, right? So whenever there's a screen printing or surface printing happening in a fabric, the back side of the fabric will be little faded away. So you need to understand those concepts, right? That okay, what kind of a different fabrics are there, how those fabrics are processed, and there are enough material out there to understand. Like just Google it, okay, and you will understand so many different topics. So that's the first thing. So understanding different kinds of weave, understanding different kinds of printing processes or craft, right? It will give you a good idea that how this fabric is created. The second topic is now how do you communicate the information that a fabric has in 3D, right? And that communication is done by different maps. So I'll quickly show you what kind of different maps are there. So if you see the image, so there are different maps that are combined together in 3D so that they will look realistic. They will give you a fabric feel. I'll show you it also. Just right now, just go through. Let's go through some of the basic maps. So first map is called a base color. So base color is basically it's a colorful image, right? That's how your fabric looks. So it's the colorful image that your fabric have. Now second is a normal map. So suppose you have created a simple stripe fabric in Photoshop. Now that fabric, right, that print basically is not going to look that realistic because it doesn't have those bumps in the surfaces, right? It doesn't have the weave, right? So to ingrain that weave structure, okay, the bumpiness, we add normal map. I'm simplifying a little bit more, but I hope you'll get my point. Now, the third map is height map. So suppose you have an embroidery or you have an embossing done in the fabric. So how do you represent the height or the width that you have added in the fabric? So that's called a height map. Next is opacity map. Suppose you have a lace fabric. Now you have an opacity also, right? So how do you communicate that? Um, Third is roughness map. So suppose if you have a cotton fabric, right? It has a different roughness versus a polyester based fabric. So different maps have different roughness, and that is what you communicate. And the last is metallic map. So you communicate any, so suppose you have a fabric in which there is you have done embroidery through metal, right? So obviously the part that has metal, it's going to shine more. So you need to communicate. So that's how you communicate the metallic map. There are, as I said previously also, there are multiple open source software that you can use to communicate these properties, okay? So no worries about it. Just for the sake of understanding that, you have to always understand that when you are creating a fabric, right, you have to understand different components and you have to communicate different properties of fabric, right? Like height, like color, right, normal map, right, roughness, metallic map, all these things. And these are different basic maps, right? So you can create a very realistic fabrics by using all these things. Now let me quickly take you to another it's a basic software sampler, right? And I'll show you like how these information are integrated in a fabric. Okay. So right now, if you see, this fabric is really dull, right? It looks like a fabric, but it's a very plain fabric, right? It doesn't look like, it doesn't give you a feeling of fabric, right? So suppose we turn on the weave for this, right? Now you have a structure here, okay? And you can also create a plain weave, twill weave, all these things you can create. And now this looks a little boring, right? Because it doesn't have the print. So suppose we want to put a pattern on top of it. So now if we turn on the pattern, now there's a pattern to our fabric. Now this looks a little bit more interesting, okay? Suppose we have added, we also want to add a different kind of a weave, right? So this is a different kind of weave, and now we have also added some print. So look, what's happening here is you just have this fabric, okay? Suppose you have a basic fabric, right? You can give it some kind of a weave like this, and then you can also turn on the pattern, right? So now there's an image, right? And suppose we will add some metallic embossing on top of it, right? So this is a metallic embossing. So now you can see that like this is a little bit rough, right? This surface versus this is more metallic. And this metallic thing that is created, right? It's taking the shape of that normal map that is in the bottom. So this fabric is created, right? So there are different maps that are associated with this fabric, and you can export all those maps, or you can create it. So for example, you can create it individually also, and you can export. So what you need to remember, okay, is very simple. Is that while creating textures, you need to communicate different informations, okay? And those informations are communicated with different map that you can produce separately also, or by using a software, you can get all the maps all together, okay? So there is a base. So let's go through it again. So it's a base color. So it's going to communicate the color of the fabric and everything, all the prints and everything, right? So base color, normal map going to add some depth to your fabric, right? It's going to give you toy weave, satin weave, all different kinds of weave structures form, right? Height map is going to communicate the height. Suppose if there's an embroidery done, if there's an embossing done, that it's going to communicate that. Opacity map is going to communicate the opacity. And height map is a black and white image. It's an it's a black to white, or it can be gray also, okay? So it's a black and white map. Same with opacity. Now you can see roughness is also a black and white, right? Same goes with metallic also. Metallic is black and white. So this is how there are different maps, and you can create all these maps using open source softwares. No worries about it. Okay. So great. In the next tutorial, we'll try to understand the next property. Okay, and that is rendering. Like how rendering is important, right? And what are different components of rendering, so that you can take that also into picture. I'll say one more again. This thing is the overall idea is that when you are learning 3D fashion, there are different components, there are different topics that you need to tackle individually. Okay, so it's not like that you have learned, like you open Clue 3D or Browseware software and you just create something and you just put it out there, right? It gives you a very shallow understanding of different components. So what we are going through with this whole series is I'm trying to help you to understand that these are the different components, okay, and you need to tackle them one by one. So you can't tackle all them on one go, right? So you need to sit and you need to say, okay, right now I'm in modeling stage, I'm only going to focus on modeling. Now second stage is finishing, so I'm only going to sit and I'm going to focus on finishing. Okay, I'm not going to focus on like how to create fabrics and all these things. Once the finishing is done, now you're going to sit and you are only going to focus on texturing. And there are so many resources out there, free resources out there that you can use. Okay, just that you need time to sit and you just need focus on a specific thing on specific days. Now once the texturing is done, now you focus on rendering. Now rendering is done, now you focus on animation. So one by one you need to go and you need to tackle all those things. Okay, I hope that when I was learning for the first time, I was just learning anything I didn't had any structure to my learning, and with this whole series, I want to give a structure because I have not found any like explaining people explaining the different stages, right, that you need to go through. So that's just my attempt to give you a better understanding. So because you have, like, if you are doing it for the first time, don't I know, like, this would you will feel like, can I do this or not, this looks so difficult, like what are different maps, how to produce different maps, all these things. Don't worry, tackle everything one by one. Everything is, it's easy, it's possible, no worries. Okay, great. So we are going to catch up on the next assignment, and the next assignment is going to be about uh rendering. Lights, camera, action. Okay, take care. All right. So, the next stage that we are going to talk about, the fourth stage, is called the rendering, right? After this, we just have animation. So now let's understand what rendering is. It's a very important stage because two of the major components comes into the picture. First is lights and the camera, right? Because once you have created the things, you've applied texture to those, to your garments, to avatar, everything. Now the time is there to apply, to do a rendering, okay, to put the lights and rendering. Every 3D softwares give you this options of rendering in the same software, right? So Clue has its own engine, Browseware has its own engine. I am going to show you the rendering in Blender because it's more intuitive there, because you can see the lights, you can see things working in a way much more better way. So we'll go through Blender, okay? But before that, let's first understand what rendering is. So now once you have finished the bag, you've applied all the texture. So now you can see that you can create some environment and you can quickly arrange some objects around that object, right? You can give a story. Okay. Rendering is also about its creating story. Okay. So you are setting up the scenes, you are setting up, giving the textures and everything. Now you render out image so that your design looks way much more interesting. So there are major two topics that you need to understand before you tackle this topic. First is understanding the environment. Uh, Look, like Photoshop, when you do 2D art, there are so many free resources out there. In the same way, uh, while creating environment, there are so many free resources out there. Just for example, there is a website called Sketchfab. That's completely free. You can have so many assets, right? Completely 3D assets. You can import it all into Glow, into Blender, all 3D software. So the major file formats they are going to give you. Second is you have Bridge, right? By Unity, you can use that. It's completely free. There are more than 20,000 3D resources, free resources. So, and there is Blender Kit. There's so many other resources. No worries about it. Free HDR, right? HDR Heaven. So there are so many websites for individual things that you can get completely for free. And that's what the 3D community is also doing. So it's amazing. So first thing is understanding how to create environments. And the second thing is the lights in the camera, how lights affect your scene and how to understand light. And light is a very, very, very crucial part. So you need to get that thing right. Okay, now let's look into some of the rendered images that we have done while doing the course, right? So so this jump, right, the dance jump that you can see, the image in the left, right? So you see, right, like I could have also done it, like I could have removed this light, right, spherical, right, and I could have just made a plain light, right? But the the scene, right, what I want to create, I want to create a stage, right? I want to make this woman like she's flying, right? So the story that you want to create, you do it with environment, right? The floors, the dark background, the lights, and it's very important. So, for example, the same light condition that you have used for the handbag will not work for this image. That's why these two things are really important. Okay. Uh, Next is sometimes what you can do, you can create a little bit more elaborated scene, right? On the right hand side, you can see, right? You can create a complete scene, like so. You can see there's a table lamp, that light is falling here. So there are multiple lights which are there in the scene. Okay, there's not just one light. So multiple lights create multiple scenes, and like they create different shadows. It brings realism to your file. So what we are going to do is we are going to quickly go into Blender. Okay, and we are going to see that how these file, right, how this lights, environment, whole this everything works. Uh, so this is my basic scene. This garment and avatar is exported from Glow, right? And now you see, right, this looks dull because there is no texture. I've applied everything, right? So let me go to the rendering mode. So in this rendering mode, what's happening here is you see the light, right? This is my light. Okay, this light is projecting right on this avatar. So I can quickly, if you want, I can hide this light. Okay, now this is completely dark. I can bring different kinds of light. So I can bring I can bring a point light, right? So this is my point light. Let's move it up. Okay, I can increase the intensity of this light to 200. Okay, I can move this light, right? So when you're moving this light, you're creating different kinds of, like, you're creating different shadows, right? You're creating all these things. So simple. This is the one way of looking into this particular image, right? Now maybe this image looks dull to you. Okay, so what you can do is you can put this light a little bit more far, right? And like, yeah, like here, right? You can increase the world light a little bit, right? And you can quickly again go to the light and increase this to 1200, right? Better. You can also copy one more light and you can put it here, right? So you have now two lights. As you can see, the shadows are falling. So I want to create I'll just create a soft shadow, right? So I can increase the radius of the light, right? So you can see the shadows are not that hard. Okay. Control C, Control V, and I can just quickly put this here all again. And let's see. Yeah. Uh, okay. So this is my scene. And one more thing I can do is I can quickly, uh, I can quickly bring one more plane, right? So this is going to look a little bit more interesting to you. So now this is your, hold it. This is your complete scene. Okay. Uh, this is your one scene. Okay, now compare this scene. Okay, now basically, like, now you can increase and decrease the light. So you can select the light, you can increase it. Don't worry about like what's happening here, like how I'm using the light. Just look into the different aspect of it, right? So, okay. So what I have done is this, that I'll show you the another rendered image, okay, so that you get a better idea what's happening. So look, this image versus this image, okay? The images are same. It's just that the background, okay, the lights, they are having different effect, different visual effects, right? You can, I hope you are able to see it, right? So this is what light does. It creates different visual effects, okay, and gives it gives more story to your work, right? So that's the, so light is not just there to just to make the space brighten up, right? It's used for different things. Again, like suppose this is your like this is your scene, right? You can go to the material and you can add some, just look, I am not expecting you guys to understand like the blender, because maybe you haven't used it before. But what I'm trying to tell you is this, that every, so okay, let me open that image again. Yeah, so the thing that I'm trying to communicate with you is that lights play a very crucial role in communicating that what kind of a story you want to tell about the whole scene, okay? And also the objects, the background, these all play a very major role, and it's not going to come like on the first day. So the more visual clues that you take, the more inspiration that you take, it's going to get better and better with the more work you do. Okay, so but there are few standards. Okay, there are few standards that always work. So for example, a plain light on the top of the head, right? It always, so for example, studio lights, right? The way the studio lights are set up, it always work, right? So there are few methods which always work. You can set up like 3 lights. So there are different kinds of setup. Like For example, in a studio, there are different kinds of setup. You can follow those, and it will look good. Okay, perfect. Now let me also show you some other quick uh, work so that you can uh, quickly understand more, right? Like how those things are also. So this is another scene that is, and I'll show you the output of this particular image, right? So that you get a better idea. So this is the output of this image, okay? So what I wanted in this image is I wanted a background, obviously, right? But I didn't wanted a plain background. I wanted some textures. I wanted some kind of finishing, right? And I wanted the floor, right? Because that's what was visible. So um, now I have this object, these objects that you see here, these objects, all these objects are from Sketchfab and Bridge. These are the two free open source platforms that you can use. Okay. The garment is from Clo, the hat is from Blender Kit, and the avatar is from Dash. So these are different combinations that I have used. Now, this thing that you see here is a window, basically, right? So if I go to the rendering mode, now you will be able to see that. Great. So this window, and there is this light. So there are different setups, okay? So there is this one setup of a light here, right? This is the light. So if I hide this, you can see, right? So now it's a little bit darkened, right? But I have given this light so that the space is a little bit more bright, okay? Second is the sunlight. The sunlight is coming directly from this area, right? So this area, the sunlight is coming directly from here. Okay. So if I suppose if I take this panel, okay, uh, e- if I move this panel here, now you can see there is no light that is coming, right? There is very little light that is coming here because it's blocking the sunlight. So now there is this one more light form that is called sunlight, right? So there are different kinds of, as I said, different kinds of light forms that work. Okay, so now you see like I have created this window for the sun, right? And then there is also a point light which I have also like if I turn on this now this space will become a little bit more bright, right? That's what I have done. And the final output, as I have already previously shown you, is okay, where it is. Let me quickly try to bring that. It's something like this. So I needed this background, I needed the floor. So this is how you do it. Okay. So this is the second kind of a setup. And the final setup is file, open. I have already prepared some projects file for you. Okay. So that you can understand in a better way. Um, okay. So now this is the next setup. Okay. It's a very simple setup that you do. Let me hide the camera. It's a very simple setup that you do. This is the light, right? Simple plain light. This is the floor, right? And this is the basic. And I can just move it a little bit more forward, actually. Yeah. So if I turn this on, if I turn the rendering on, right now you can see that a very simple setup, right? Nothing much complex. Okay. So and the output of this is going to look something like this. Okay, easy, simple. Now, again, one last thing that I want to show you is this, that, as I said, light plays a crucial part in telling the story. Sometimes you want to remove the background. You also want to bring HDR images to the background. You want to create, like, give it a kind of a feel, right? So, uh, so to give the background, the sky and all these things. So these images are called HDR images. Okay. So you can get, so there's a website called uh wait, I forgot. HDR Heaven. Yeah. So you can get a lot of 3D. Let me open that file for you. Let me show that. Just hold on. HDR Heaven. HDRI Heaven. It's the name is changed. It's Poly Heaven now. So what you can do is you can quickly come here, right? And you can see. So they give a lot of environments to you, right? So it's completely free. You can download and you can install this environment. So these are different kinds of environment that you can use. In the same way, there are multiple 3D resources out there that you can obviously use it completely for free. So what I mean with this assignment, um, or with this particular part for rendering, what I wanted you to communicate was that lights are really important. Every software is going to, for example, Flow is also going to have a setup of lights that you can use. In the same way, browseware also have this. Every major software is going to have it. So you need to take light into consideration of not just illuminating the space. Okay, it's not like that. So you need to take light into consideration of what kind of story you want to tell, and then you need to use the light. If you don't know what kind of a story you want to tell, or if you know what kind of a story but how to do that, so you can just go to online, right? Go to Google and just search. Okay, search the inspirational image that you like. Yeah, this is image that I'm looking for, right? Then try to understand how the light must have been set up, right? Like where the other lights have been, and then go forward with that. So great, guys. So in the next and the final series of of this assignment series, like what we are going to do is we are going to understand how animations are created, what are the different components of animation, and then I think this will end. So with this whole structure, right, from modeling to finishing to texturing to rendering to animation, um, this whole series right now we are in rendering stage, and then the final is animation, right? Animation is just an extended version of rendering only, so it's quite easy. So do all these things properly, and like understand all. If you don't, like if you want to revise something, you can go back, you can quickly look, and then once you are in a particular topic, right, then just be in that topic. So for example, if you are in the stage of texturing, don't worry about rendering. Although those two things are kind of related, because you leave it. So just be in texturing. Don't worry too much about rendering. Okay. If you are in finishing, don't worry too much about rendering or texturing, right? So complete individual stages very nicely, and then move on to the next segment. Great. So guys, enjoy. We are going to catch up in the final next assignment, that is animation. Bye bye. Okay, so we are right now in the final stage, okay, of our series, and this is animation, okay, and you can see the animation on your screen also. So animation is an extended version of a single image. It's just that the complete image is moving, okay. So in animation there are, if you will see, right, like in this particular animation, so there are two things that are happening. One is the avatar is animated, right? And based on that avatar animation, the cloths, the garments are also animated. So these are two different parts and they are done separately. Okay. So let's quickly jump into how it works. So I'm going to quickly show you a simple workflow of the same animation that you have seen before, right? So let's quickly see this. So this avatar is already having an motion. Okay. So now we are giving the garment. Okay. We are trying to play the garment. Now look, now once we are because this avatar is also already having the motion, right? Now once we have given the garment, we have we have turned on the simulation. So based on the motion of the avatar, the garment is also going to move, right? And this is happening obviously in Glue. You can also do this the same thing in Browseware to 3D or any other software. Okay, so now you got the animation of the garment. So before you had the animation of the avatar, now you have the animation of the garment also. Now, what you have done is you have taken those two things together. You have put it on Blender, or you can use Maya, whatever 3D software you are using. It's just that you need to understand that you need to put those two things together somewhere. Okay. And now based on that, what you are, before this, what we did, as you can see here, we adjust, like we have given the shoes. Okay. And these shoes are going to move according to the foot. Okay. So now you can see, now we have also animated the football also, okay? And this is how the complete animation looks like. So this is how a simple animation is done. We'll look into one more simple animation. So now let's look into this. So this is a very pretty simple animation. It's called wind. Okay, so the tool that we are using here is called wind animation. Okay, so now you have this garment, you have given the wind to it right now. So this was a simple garment. Okay, now you have used this wind tool, right, to move it, and now you have, again, you are bringing it to Blender. You are giving it animation, you are giving it textures, and now you play the complete animation, right? That's how it works. I'll show you the complete animation. Don't worry about anything, okay? So this is how the things work. Same in Blender. This is the whole. So you have to animate the avatar. Second thing is you have to animate the garment file. Then you have to bring those two things together in any 3D any other platform. Okay. Now let's quickly understand what are the topics that we need to get. So the first topic is important is the avatar, how to create avatars, how to rig that avatar. So those are the two things. Now then how to create the rest of the animation, right? By going to Flow, rendering and all these things. So these are two different topics. So avatar and rigging is different thing, and then animating the garment is a separate thing, okay? And those two things, we'll see how those two things work. So now, if you open Glow 3D software or any other software, you will get avatars, right? In the software. You can take that avatar and you can bring that avatar to a software called Miximo. This is by Adobe. It's a completely free tool, okay? Free online tool. So you can bring that avatar to this software, right? And then what you can, okay, let's. So you can upload the character, right? And then what you can do is you can search for any kind of animation and you can just apply that animation. So if I apply this MAM kick, so now you can see that this is the rigging. So this software is helping you to rig it, okay? So you don't have to individually do the animation, and you can combine different animations also together, okay? So that's also possible. So you can download this animation and you can also download this animation, right? And you can just combine this animation in a particular software. So one of the software that I'm going to show you to create avatar, to animate that avatar, is called DAZ. Again, it's a free software. Everybody can download this. So in DAZ, you can get different kinds of avatars, right? And you can see, right, like this is our avatar, okay? Now this avatar have these bones, right? So can you see this, like this triangular things, right? So these are called bones, okay? And based on these bones, basically you get this rigging. So how this rig is created? This rig is created based on the bones, okay? So software recognizes or create its own bones and then it rigs. So suppose you have this avatar, you have this bones, right? And you have imported some animations from Miximo, right? Now you have applied this. So this is a very simple animation, right? You can see, right? Very simple animations. And this is how you apply, like you create an animation, okay? You create a simple animation. Now, what you do is you take this animation to software like Blender or Flow or any other software, right? So now you just have the avatar, you have nothing else, okay? Now you're going to take that to Flow or Browseware, because now you need to do cloth simulation, okay? So once you take that to Flow, now what you need to do is you need to bring it, bring the garment file from Flow to Blender and bring the this avatar file from Dash to Blender, and you have to combine all those two parts together. So let me quickly show you what's happening here, okay? Okay. So look, this complete avatar. So this avatar is a separate thing. This garment is a separate thing. So if I just hide this, so the avatar that you see right here is a separate thing, okay? And this cloth is a separate thing. So these two are not connected. So this avatar, this is not connected at all, okay? So what's happening here is, it's just that these two things are synced in such a way that you feel that, okay, these two things are one, okay? But these are not. So avatar is separate and the garment file is separate. Garment file, we have uh, we have created from Glow, the animation of the garment file. The avatar is created from Dash. Now, if you play the animation, now you can see, right? These two things are playing, right? And there goes the click. Okay. Now, one last thing. Okay. Uh, so this is your animation. So before this, if you see, like if you want to take a render, so rendering is done on one picture, right? So this is how you are doing rendering. Okay, if you want to take the complete animation, so every software is going to give you this where to take the animation from. Okay, so let me show you quickly. Uh, in Blender, you have this output properties, and you can see, right, the output. So you want a video file. Okay, the format is mpeg4, right, where it will save it, right? And then you can render, and you can render the animation. You can render the image, or you can render the animation. If you render the image, it says that one single frame will be rendered. If you render the animation, the complete all the frames together will be rendered. So that's how rendering works. Okay. So again, let's quickly do a revision of a complete, like the 5 part that you need to understand. Okay. So in 3D creation, right, you can call it 3D fashion creation. There are 5 parts. The first part is modeling. The modeling stage, we are converting our basic shape into a desired shape, and that conversion process is a little technical also, right? You can include, you must include pattern making concept also. So suppose you want to add fullness to your garment, right? So you need to understand pattern making. That's the first thing. So modeling process is a little technical process. You need to understand pattern making into the consideration. So that's first part is modeling. Second part is finishing. Now, finishing is about understanding the garment construction. How does, for example, knitwear fabric seams look, right? Seams are like the edges, okay? How do those edges look, right? How does buttons and zippers are placed, right? You can't put buttons and zippers everywhere you want, right? There had to be some technicality, right? How to put labels and all these things. So now, the second stage of finishing is again a little technical, and technical means like it's a visual thing, but again, you need to understand those visuals, how the rib fabric is going to look like and all, right? So that's the second stage. It's called finishing. The third stage is called texturing, and you need to understand different properties of fabric. So how does a cotton behave? How does a polyester fabric behave? What kind of a different weaves are there? How does embroidery and all these things play into the fabric, right? How does screen printing happen? So how does the printing happens on a fabric? And because of that printing, what happens to the backside of the fabric also, okay? So every topic has some kind of a technicality, right? And those technicalities are not that difficult. So even if you sit for 1 or 2 days, you can understand those topics very clearly. So that's a finishing, a texturing part, right? The third stage is called rendering. In the rendering stage, again, you need to be understanding how what kind of a story I want to tell. So based on that storytelling, you are going to set up your lights, you're going to set up your camera, you're going to set up the environments, right? The third and the final thing is animation, right? So if I've created the environment just to bring some life to my designs, right? Let's do some animation. So that's how you want to do animation, right? So in animation, you need to understand avatars, right? Then how to give motions to those avatars, right? And then that motion had to be conveyed to the garment also. So how to convey that motion to garment, right? And how to bring all the things together. That's the animation. It sounds too much, but seriously, like if you go topic by topic, everything will fall into picture, everything will fall into line, and you will learn it and you will enjoy it. Like I think more than learning, you're going to enjoy this. Okay. So, so that's how the whole, the complete 3D fashion journey of your looks like. And look, learning is like it will keep going on, right? It's just that what I'm trying to do with this series is I'm trying to give you a structure to your learning, because when you give structure to your learning, you learn really fast also, and you learn in a way much more better way. Second, I have realized that like I have taught more than 2000 students, and what I have realized, like, many people are already working, so they are doing this in the side projects, right? So when you are doing anything, like you're just doing it, you have like weekly, you have 3 to 4 hours only for that particular thing, or 1 or 2 hours. So now it becomes really important to give a structure because you don't have that much of time to waste, right? So your time is really valuable in that sense if you're already working somewhere, right? So you want to make it as efficient as possible, right? Not wasting too much of time. And if you waste too much of time, like you always, like you tend to leave that thing then, okay? You don't complete it. So that said, give a structure to your learning, right? Start with modeling, go to finishing, prepare everything well, and then start learning. It would be a real, like, this is fun. Like, this 3D thing is complete fun. Okay, I hope that, guys, this whole series was informative, and I hope this will help. This is something that you need to watch before you start learning 3D. Okay, you can learn 3D from wherever you want, but please, please, please go through this series, right? It's really important. Uh, and if you share this with your friends, because this is I'm going to make the series completely for free, okay? Because I really want everyone to go through these steps before they start. So if any of your friend is thinking to start, okay, 3D fashion journey, please do send this video to that person, and it's really going to help them also. So, guys, really nice to have you, and thank you for taking out time. Enjoy life, keep learning new things, take care, and bye bye.